Developing news coming out in about the past hour as we're hearing that tensions are escalating between Russia and the United States. Now, take a look at the latest headlines with me so you can see it for yourself. Trump is ready for phase 2 of Russia's sanctions over the Ukrainian conflict. You can see this coming out today, September the 7th, 2025. Updated 1 hour ago. I'm going to play for you the video footage and articles so you can see it for yourself and take a look. Russia hits Ukraine with the largest air attack of the war as talks of peace flicker. Russia launched over 800 drones, decoys, and missiles. This happening overnight. And take a look here. Tariffs on oil buyers will lead to Russian economy collapse. U.S. Treasury chief says as the U.S. is preparing to put these sanctions on Russia. And take a look at this as well. Trump says Medvedev, this was 1 month ago, was entering dangerous territory after U.S.-Russia war threats. Now, we're hearing that we could be going this route yet again. Things are about to escalate significantly. And again, take a look here. 1 month ago, Medvedev reminds Trump of Russia's doomsday nuclear strike capabilities as war of words escalate. And they had those nuclear threats that were issued between the two of them. Medvedev and Donald Trump, you'll recall on social media, going back and forth with the threats, warnings of World War III, nuclear war, of attacks. We had seen submarines launched, a lot going back and forth between the United States and Russia about a month ago. And now we're hearing that Donald Trump is saying that he is not happy with the way that Russia has been carrying themselves, handling things in these negotiations, and now he is prepared to start phase 2 of sanctions against Russia, which could cripple the nation's economy. We're going to be seeing where we go from here. Now, I'm going to share with you the articles, the video footage. As you know, I'm going to put it on the screen, read right from it. These are all going to be hyperlinked in the description so you can see the times, the dates, the sources. Want to hold myself to the highest level of accountability here on the channel. They're going to be hyperlinked in the description so you can click them. Go read them. Now, if you appreciate that, do me a favor before we dive in. Take a quick second, hit that thumbs up, like button. Also, subscribe to stay up to date. If this is your first time here, it is totally free. I just give you the latest updated information so you know exactly what is going on. So we're going to get right to it so you can see all of the latest coming out on this. But let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Are we going to be entering into war here very soon? Let me know your thoughts. A lot of people say we are already in World War III. It just hasn't been announced yet, but it might have started back in 2022 when Russia launched that attack on Ukraine. Let me know your thoughts. Now, in addition to that, we just saw on the 80th anniversary celebration of World War II, we saw in China, Russian President Vladimir Putin, North Korea's Kim Jong-un, and 20 nations in total came together in China to celebrate the ending of World War II, all adversaries of the United States. And Donald Trump said, "We know you are conspiring against us." And Donald Trump has actually ordered the Pentagon to restructure the U.S. military in preparation for potential assaults from Russia and China and other adversarial nations. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. War or peace? What is on the horizon for our world? Let me know your thoughts. But we're going to dive right in so we can get you caught up on the latest. AD Straw Hat, thank you for the $2 super chat. Appreciate that a ton. Trump touched the wall. We know who's in charge. Yep, we're going to be seeing. I will keep you guys up to date every step of the way. Marjorie says, Steve, looking sharp today. Thank you so much. Came home from church service and getting you guys the latest updated information so you know exactly what is going on. And I see war starting to pour into the comments. People think that we are about to enter into war. I'm seeing a peace there. Donna is saying peace, but I see Lily saying war. Let me know your thoughts. And again, do me a favor. So we got over 1,000 people with me live. Take a second, hit that like button if you haven't done so yet. But let's go ahead and take a look at some video footage so you can see it for yourself.
Russia launching its biggest air barrage yet in Ukraine, leaving an infant among the dead and setting the main government building on Kyiv on fire. Chief Foreign Correspondent Trey Yanks joins us live from the Ukrainian capital with the latest. Hello, Trey.
Mike, good afternoon. It was the largest air attack conducted by Russia since the war began. More than 800 drones, along with a dozen missiles, targeted Ukrainian cities, including the capital of Kyiv. At least 3 people were killed and 20 more injured. The moment was significant as all of these different buildings across the city were targeted, including the Cabinet of Ministers' offices, the first government building to be significantly damaged in Kyiv. You could see black smoke billowing this morning across the skyline. At a nearby apartment complex, as we arrived, rescue crews combed through the debris, looking for one man buried beneath the rubble. Right now, first responders are digging through the rubble of an apartment building in the Ukrainian capital of Kyiv. Overnight, it was hit by a Russian drone as part of the largest drone attack against Ukraine since the invasion began in February of 2022. A government building was also hit, and the Ukrainians are bracing for more Russian bombardment. The president of the EU Commission said today, quote, once again, the Kremlin is mocking diplomacy, trampling international law, and killing indiscriminately. Today, European leaders expressed their support for Ukraine and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. Just about half an hour ago, we got another alert. The city of Kyiv is under Russian attack once again. Mike?
Be safe. Trey Yingst live in Kyiv. Trey, many thanks. President Trump arriving now at Joint Base Andrews as he heads to New York for the men's final of the U.S. Open. We expect to hear from the president in a matter of minutes. We will bring that to you when we get it. But there's a live look at Joint Base Andrews. Air Force One, the bird is fueled up and ready to go to New York City. We'll see if the president has anything to say there, but we do expect some new comments from him. Comments coming from the White House as President Trump is going to spend his Sunday checking out the men's U.S. Open final. The women were last night. It was a very compelling match. And today we've got Sinner versus Alcaraz in the men's final. President Trump going back to his former home city of New York City to attend the spectacular U.S. Open final, which will be a rocking crowd and a very spirited final between Sinner and Alcaraz, the two men in tennis, the best two men in tennis at this stage. We believe that they are queuing up the audio from President Trump to get his comments, what's on his mind today as he's about to go to New York, and we will bring that to you momentarily. But as you can see, Marine One landing at Joint Base Andrews as the president prepares to board Air Force One to head for New York City, to head to Flushing Meadow to see the United States Open tennis final on the men's side of this year's tournament, the last major tournament in the tennis calendar of 2025, and we will figure out whether Alcaraz from Spain will win or Sinner from Italy. The American hopes were dashed. And let's go to the White House and hear what President Trump had to say moments ago.
So many other things, because we're coming up with the answers for autism.
Well, we're back to Marine One as they were apparently queuing up the tape at the White House. Hopefully we'll have that just in a matter of seconds, but you can see the beautiful Marine One helicopter on the tarmac at Joint Base Andrews in suburban Maryland. 12:16 Eastern here as the president will make a short flight on Air Force One to New York City, to Flushing Meadows, Queens, to see the United States Open men's final, which should be fascinating later today. The blades have stopped on the chopper. The door comes down, and we will see the Marine come out, and the Marine coming out. And next, we will see the president and his delegation leaving the helicopter and make the short walk over to Air Force One on the tarmac. Both doors are down. Two Marines out in dress uniform. Very impressive. And here you can see some of the president's delegation that will be joining him on the trip up to New York, starting to get out the helicopter and assume position. And momentarily, after we see Secret Service come down, we will see the Commander-in-Chief. President Trump telling reporters just moments ago he's ready to go to a second stage in terms of sanctioning Russia, coming off the report we just had from Trey Yingst in Kyiv And there you can see the commander-in-chief coming down, saluting the officer, Air Force officer on the tarmac for the short walk to Air Force One, where we expect that he will glide up the stairs and get on the plane and fly to New York City for what promises to be a very fun afternoon of great men's tennis in the Big Apple. There's the president and an Air Force officer walking across the tarmac from Marine One, heading to Air Force One. He'll get and give a salute before he boards Air Force One, waves to the gathered press pool, and up the steps he goes to Joint Base Andrews to Air Force One. And we expect to hear from the president momentarily. As we mentioned, there's apparently a message in there for Vladimir Putin after a vicious attack on Kyiv last night. Let's go to the White House and hear President Trump.
It's fake news. When you say that, darling, that's fake news.
Well, why would
I don't
the
go to
Department
war.
of Defense?
Listen, be quiet. Listen. You don't listen. You never listen. That's why you're second rate. We're not going to war. We're going to clean up our cities. We're going to clean them up so they don't kill 5 people every weekend. That's not war. That's common sense.
Are you ready
to move to the second phase? Are you ready to move to the second phase of sanctions against Russia or punishing Putin?
How was your call with the Prime Minister? What do you think of all the establishment attacks on RFK Jr.?
Well, he's a different kind of a guy. He's got a lot of good ideas, but he's got a lot of ideas. You know, normally they don't have any ideas, and that's why we have problems with autism and so many other things, because we're coming up with the answers for autism. You watch. We're coming up with the answers for other things that normal people, regular people, easy to get along with people wouldn't be able to do. He's got a lot of ideas, and so do I, and we're going to clean it up. Why? Let me ask you. Yeah. Really higher than Chicago? You're not. Excuse me. You know how many people were killed in Chicago last weekend? 8. You know how many people were killed in Chicago the week before? 7. You know how many people were wounded? 74 people were wounded. You think there's worse than that? I don't think so.
About Lebanon, Hezbollah refuses to hand over its weapons to the Lebanese government.
Who does?
The Iran ally, Hezbollah, refuses to hand over.
We'll respond to that later.
Are you considering attacking the cartels inside of Venezuela? You attack?
Well, you're going to find out. You're going to find out. Say it. I don't know anything about that. I had a great conversation with him. Say hello to him. He's a good man.
There you have it, you guys. Now, let me know your thoughts in the comments. Do you think that we're going to be going to war here? Now, we heard that there's going to be secondary tariffs happening, or excuse me, secondary sanctions happening with Russia. And let's go ahead and take a look at the article. And you heard Trump there talking to reporters, really letting some of them have it as they were claiming that we're going to war in Chicago. And he said, no, that's fake news. You're a bunch of liars. You heard what he had to say to them, letting them have it. But do you think that we're going to be going to war here with other nations for real, with Russia, with China, with North Korea, Iran? Let me know your thoughts. Let's take a look here at the latest coming out just in the past hour. Today, September 7th, 2025. Trump ready for phase 2 of Russia sanctions over Ukrainian conflict. And you're going to be seeing here in a second that they're saying that this could cripple Russia. Now, it says U.S. President Donald Trump said on Sunday today that he is ready to move to a second phase of sanctioning Russia, the closest that he has come to suggesting that he is on the verge of ramping up sanctions against Moscow or its oil buyers over the war in Ukraine. Trump has repeatedly threatened Moscow with further sanctions, but withheld them as he pursued peace talks. So there you have it, you guys. Now it says the latest comments suggest an increasingly aggressive posture. But Trump stopped short of saying that he was committed to do such a decision or what a second phase might entail. We're hearing that this is very escalatory. And as we saw about a month or so ago, there was a lot of threats, Back and forth between Dmitry Medvedev and Donald Trump, the United States, talks of World War III, nuclear war attacks. It got pretty tense. Now, this comes as, take a look at this with me. This coming out today as well. Russia hits Ukraine with the largest air attack of the war as talks of peace flicker. Now, we've seen that Donald Trump has been trying to go the route of diplomacy, negotiations. He said that he's going to be able to end the war with Russia and Ukraine, but he's getting very frustrated with Vladimir Putin because he says one moment Putin is saying, yes, it's going to be great, let's talk. And then later on that same day, he is dropping bombs on Ukraine. Now, the article says that Russian forces struck Ukraine with its largest air attack since the war began on Sunday, launching a mass of drones, decoys, and missiles. Ukraine's Air Force said 810 drones and decoys were used in the airstrike, including at least 13 missiles. Ukrainian forces intercepted 747 of the drones and 4 of the missiles. At least 2 people were killed and 20 people injured in Kiev. Total casualty reports are not yet available. Images of Kiev show explosives struck a government building and at least 1 residential building as well. Hits from 9 missiles and 54 drones were recorded at 33 locations across Ukraine, and the debris of shot-down targets fell at 8 locations, the Air Force has said. Now, the government facility that appeared to be struck in the attack was the Cabinet of Ministers building. Russian forces have previously refrained from targeting government buildings in Ukraine's capital. The building is the home of Ukraine's cabinet, housing the office of its ministers. Police blocked access to the building as fire trucks and ambulance arrived. Now, for the first time, the government building was damaged by an enemy attack, including the roof and upper floors. Ukrainian Prime Minister Yulia Sverdlenko said in a statement, "We will restore the buildings, but lost lives cannot be returned. The world must respond to this destruction not only with words but with actions. There is a need to strengthen sanctions pressure, primarily against Russia, oil, and gas," she added. And we are seeing that there is talks of that happening right now from Donald Trump. President Donald Trump called on European leaders last week to stop purchasing the Russian oil that is funding the war in Ukraine. The EU has drastically cut its imports of Russian oil following the invasion of Ukraine, though the president's comments point out that it has not completely cut off its energy imports from Moscow. Now, this is a developing story. As updates come out, I will be sure to share with you here on the channel. In addition to that, let's take a look at this. Tariffs on oil buyers will lead to Russian economy collapse, U.S. Treasury chief says. U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent accused India and China of supporting Russia's war in Ukraine and called for more sanctions and secondary tariffs on the countries doing trade with Moscow. Now, we're going to dive into this article here in just a second, but first, let's go ahead and take a look at some more video footage covering what is unfolding here. Let's take a look at Fox Live Now and also ABC News with the latest on what's unfolding. Let's go ahead and dive right in.
Russia has launched its largest drone and missile attack on Ukraine since the start of the war. More than 800 drones and 13 missiles were launched across Ukraine overnight. 8 civilians are dead and at least 59 others are injured. The country's cabinet building in Kyiv was also damaged in the strikes. And in an exclusive interview with ABC's chief global affairs anchor Martha Raddatz before those attacks, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky says Vladimir Putin got what he wanted out of his Alaska meeting with President Trump. ABC national security and defense analyst Mick Mulroy joins me now for more on this. Mick, given these escalating attacks in Ukraine and what Zelensky told our Martha Raddatz about Putin getting what he wanted from his summit with President Trump, what are the prospects of a possible resolution to this war right now?
So, Ike, right now it does not look good. It's clear that President Putin believes he can still take terrain in Ukraine. He believes he can win this war, and there's been no real consequences to push him toward the negotiation table and certainly to a ceasefire. Every deadline that we've set has been surpassed, with President Putin agreeing to nothing and no ceasefire happening and no significant secondary sanctions really going into place that would limit his ability to continue funding his war. So right now, unless something changes, this war is likely to continue, and we're likely to see these scenes that you're showing right now daily.
So explain to me this. What are the differences between Russia's tactics like those we saw overnight and Ukraine's response?
So Russia is deliberately targeting civilian infrastructure. Last night, they actually hit a kindergarten, and they're killing civilians. And last night, they killed a baby. These are obviously against the law of armed conflict. It is intended to be a terrorist tactic to push the Ukrainian people into wanting to see a ceasefire. Ukraine responded by using drones to hit oil and gas facilities. So that is a valid military economic target, and it's specifically designed to keep Russia from being able to sell its oil and gas, which funds its war. So it's clear one side is abiding by the law of armed conflict, and one side is deliberately flaunting it and going against it, and that's why there's ICC indictments already outstanding.
All right, Mick Milroy, thank you for that.
This video.
We do have some breaking news to get to on this Sunday when it comes to the war between Russia and Ukraine. Take a look at this. On your screen, we do have these live images. This is of a government building or a residential building, I believe, over in Kyiv. The Associated Press reporting that Russia hit Ukraine's capital with drone and missiles on Sunday in the largest aerial attack on the country since the war began, killing at least 2 people and leaving smoke rising from the roof of a key government building. Russia attacked Ukraine with 810 drones and decoys, according to Ukraine's Air Force. Spokesperson for Ukraine's Air Force continued on to say and confirm to the Associated Press that Sunday's attack was the largest Russian drone strike since the full-scale invasion of Ukraine began. Russia also launched 13 missiles of various types. Ukraine shot down and neutralized 747 drones and 4 missiles. Hits from 9 missiles and 54 drones were recorded at 33 locations across Ukraine, and the debris of shot-down targets fell at 8 locations. Associated Press reporters saw that plume of smoke rising from the roof of Kyiv's Cabinet of Ministers building, but it was not immediately clear if the smoke was the result of a direct hit or debris, which would mark an escalation in Russia's air campaign, which has so far spared government buildings in the city center. Now, the building is home of Ukraine's cabinet, housing the offices of its ministers. Police blocked access to the building as fire trucks and ambulances arrived. We did get a statement from Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky over on X. I'd like to bring it to you here on your screen. It's quite lengthy, so I won't read it in its entirety. But in part, he says this. Since last night, work has been ongoing to eliminate the consequences of Russian strikes. More than 800 drones, 13 missiles, including 4 ballistic. According to preliminary information, several drones crossed the border of Ukraine and Belarus. He then goes on to detail some of that damage that they saw throughout the capital of Ukraine, and he ends that post by saying this: such killings now, when real diplomacy could have already begun long ago, are a deliberate crime and a prolongation of the war. It has been repeatedly said in Washington that sanctions will follow a refusal to talk. We must implement everything that was agreed in Paris. We also count on the implementation of all the agreements to strengthen our air defense. Every additional system saves civilians from these vile strikes. The world can force the Kremlin criminals to stop the killings. All that is needed is political will. I thank everyone who is helping. We do have some other statements from global leaders who are also responding to that latest attack. Here on your screen, a post on X from French President Emmanuel Macron, saying Russia has once again rained down hundreds of drones and a dozen missiles on Ukraine overnight, striking indiscriminately, including residential areas and the seat of government. My thoughts are with the victims, their loved ones, and with Ukraine and the Ukrainian people. Together with Ukraine and our partners, we stand for peace. Russia, meanwhile, is locking itself ever deeper into the logic of war and terror. By Ukraine's side, we will continue to do everything to ensure that a just and lasting peace prevails. And then finally, I do believe we have a post here from EU Commission President Ursula von der Leyen saying, quote, last night, Russia launched one of the largest drone and missile strikes on Ukraine, targeting government buildings and civilian homes alike. Once again, the Kremlin is mocking diplomacy, trampling international law, and killing indiscriminately. Europe stands and will continue to stand fully behind Ukraine. We are reinforcing Ukraine's armed forces, building lasting security guarantees, and tightening sanctions to increase pressure on Russia. The killing must end. I want to bring us back out to this live image that does continue on here, courtesy of some of the feeds that we have all around the world, as we see firefighters there, emergency management officials down in Kyiv assessing the damage to several of those residential buildings across the capital there. Any new developments we get on this story, and of course all the other international conflicts that we're following, we'll bring them to you here at Live Now from Fox.
There you have it, you guys. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Now, who is the greatest threat to the United States right now? Is it Russia? Or is it China, North Korea? Is it Venezuela? As we have heard that there's been a lot developing with that nation as well. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Drop it down there. Let me know, who do you think right now is the most likely to pose a threat to the United States and potentially go to war? Now, we've been hearing these warnings coming out from Russia for quite some time. As take a look at these articles from about a month ago, and let me know your thoughts. Are we going to still be going this route? Medvedev reminds Trump of Russia's doomsday nuclear strike capabilities as war of words escalates. This was back in August. And also you can see here, July 31st, Trump says Medvedev is entering dangerous territory after U.S.-Russia threats of war. Let's go ahead and take a look at this here. Just a reminder of where things were just a month ago. Now, this article says U.S. President Donald Trump on July 31st warned former Russian President Dmitry Medvedev to watch his words, accusing him of crossing a line with increasing inflammatory rhetoric. Let's keep it that way and tell Medvedev, the failed former president of Russia who thinks that he's still the president, to watch his words, Trump wrote on Truth Social. He's entering very dangerous territory. In the post, Trump also dismissed concerns about India's trades with Russia. They can take their dead economies down together. For all I care, he wrote. We have done very little business with India. Their tariffs are too high, amongst the highest in the world. The remarks follow Medvedev's July 28th statement that Trump's ultimatum game with Moscow amounts to a threat to Russia and pushes the United States itself closer to war. Each new ultimatum is a threat and a step towards war, said Medvedev, currently deputy chair of Russia's Security Council. Not between Russia and Ukraine, but with his own country. So he is saying this is between the United States and Russia, where there are potential threats of war. Medvedev is known for his aggressive apocalyptic rhetoric and frequent threats of nuclear escalation. His posts regularly echo Kremlin propaganda, portraying Russia as the victim of Western aggression and defending further war escalation as justified. In response to Trump's remarks, Medvedev said that if his words provoked such a nervous reaction, that it meant that Russia is right about everything and will continue to go its way. Medvedev mocked Trump's comments, referring to the Walking Dead TV show and warning the U.S. president to remember how dangerous a non-existent dead hand can be. A nod to Russia's Cold War-era automated nuclear retaliation system. Trump said on July 30th that the U.S. will impose 25% tariffs on Indian imports starting August 1st, criticizing New Delhi for buying Russian oil and arms. Now, the comments followed Trump's warning of imposing 100% secondary tariffs on Russian oil within 10 days unless Russian President Vladimir Putin agreed to a peace deal in Ukraine. The U.S. strategy seeks to pressure Moscow by curbing its oil income, which accounts for roughly 1/3 of federal revenue and remains a vital source of funding for its war efforts. Trump, who has promised to broker a peace deal within 24 hours if re-elected, has grown increasingly impatient with what he describes as Russian foot-dragging in the peace talks. So there you have it, you guys. Now, those were the threats that were going back and forth about a month ago, and now we're hearing tensions could be escalating here very soon, as we are hearing that he is ready to put those secondary sanctions on Russia yet again. Take a look here. This coming out today. U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said on Sunday that Sunday called for Trump administration and Europe to exert additional economic pressure on Russia, saying that it could force President Vladimir Putin to go ahead with peace talks in Ukraine. Bessent, who recently called India and China bad actors over their continued purchase of Russian oil, accusing them of supporting its war in Ukraine, called for more sanctions and secondary tariffs on countries doing trade with Moscow. If the U.S. and the European Union can come in, do more sanctions, secondary tariffs on the countries that buy Russian oil, the Russian economy will be in full collapse. And that will bring President Putin to the table. News agency Reuters quoted Bessent as saying on NBC's Meet the Press. Bessent said the Trump administration was prepared to increase pressure on Russia. While India has been subjected to steep 50% tariffs by the U.S. for buying Russian crude, China was slapped with a staggering 145% levy, but that was put on hold for 90 days. However, India called out the West's hypocrisy, saying several European countries to buy large amounts of Russian energy, but they have escaped similar treatment. We need our European partners to follow us, because if the U.S. and the EU do this together, we are in a race now between how long can the Ukrainian military hold up versus how long can the Russian economy hold up, Bessent added. Now, Trump has grown frustrated over his failure to stop the conflict in Ukraine, despite earlier pledges that he could end the war quickly after assuming office for a second time in January. Bessent's remarks came weeks after the high-profile Alaska summit between Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin concluded without an agreement to end or pause the war in Ukraine, the deadliest conflict in Europe since 1945, now in its fourth year. Trump called the talks productive and said that there were many points the two leaders agreed to, but said there's no deal until there's a deal. Reacting to the Trump-Putin Alaska huddle, Prime Minister Narendra Modi said that India has consistently called for a peaceful resolution of the Ukraine conflict and supports all efforts in this regard. New Delhi called the leadership of Trump and Putin highly commendable in the pursuit of peace. Russia-Ukraine hostilities continue. While the geopolitics around the war continues behind the scenes, the Ukraine-Russia conflict dramatically escalates on Sunday as Russian forces struck government buildings housing Ukrainian cabinet in central Kiev, setting off fires and killing at least 3 people. Wow. Now, in retaliation, Ukraine hits Russian Druzhba oil pipeline in the Bryansk region, escalating the battle into both government and energy infrastructure. Thick black smoke billowed from the roof of the upper floors of the cabinet buildings in Kiev's Peshkersky district after the overnight assault, which officials described as the most serious escalation in months as efforts to bring about an end to the conflict continue. There you have it, you guys. So things are escalating, and we are hearing that there are threats of sanctions coming yet again, and you can see it right here, Donald Trump. It says Trump ready for phase 2 of Russia sanctions over the Ukrainian conflict. This coming out an hour ago from the time of this live stream. Let me know your thoughts. Are we going to be going to war with Russia? If so, put war. If you think no, put peace. Let me know your thoughts. But this coming out today, September the 7th, 2025, the latest information regarding the conflict with Russia and Ukraine, the United States involvement. We're going to be seeing where we go from here. We've seen a lot of conflict lately with the United States and Russia as Donald Trump is trying to get them on board with peace deals. And he says Putin comes to the table and seems very agreeable, but then that same day turns around and does attacks against Ukraine. Let me know, where are we going to be going from here, war or peace? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Now, while you drop those in the comments, also don't forget, if you haven't done so yet, please take a second, hit that like button. Just need 50 more likes if you haven't done so yet to hit 800 while we're live. Also, as I mentioned, all these articles, they're going to be linked in the description so you can reference them for yourself. I cite all the sources, put it on the screen, read right from it so that way you can know and rest assured that this is the latest as of today, September the 7th, 2025. But as more comes out, I'll be sure to let you know. There's conflicts right now with Venezuela, with Russia, with Iran. There's a lot of concerns. China unifying our adversaries together in celebration of their power. China releasing new nuclear arms that they have available. And Donald Trump calling them out, saying, we know You're conspiring against us, and he is making preparations for potential assaults from other nations. Donald Trump's getting things ready. If you like that, you appreciate what Donald Trump has been doing as he is the president of the United States, drop a 47 in the comments for support for the Trump administration. But like I said, as more comes out, I'll be sure to keep you up to speed here on the channel. But that is the latest, you guys. Thank you so much for joining me. The Watchman, thank you, says, thanks again, Steve Ram. You are very welcome. Tamira says, thanks, Steve. You bet. I'll keep you guys up to speed, and I will catch you in the next one. But that is the latest. Thank you so much for joining me. Take care. God bless. This is Steve.